What is up, down, and sideways, all you absolutely beautiful individuals? It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you beauties for a record-breaking Thursday Tier 2 region matchup. And we're pulling north of 200,000 live viewers on a single stream. When you combine them, we're surpassing the peak viewership that we got from Split 1 in the LTA. And again, I'll say it once more, a Tier 2 region on a Thursday.
We thought that Las Ratonas simply fueled up the rocket ship to get out of orbit, get into outer space, and explore the solar system. They've got the Giga Boosters on. They're going to another universe. They're ready for it, boys. This was incredible. Las Ratonas keep the dream alive. Full 5-game series going the distance to keep everything moving here at EMA Masters.
Yeah, it was full of drama. Obviously, Supermassive is a level up competition-wise compared to what they've been playing, other than Carmine Corp, who, of course, they lost to earlier in the tournament, but they go down 2-1 in this series. I mean, I feel for Kedra, man. This guy's losing his mind. He's aging about 10 years in the span of this EU Masters, but down 2-1, backs against the wall. You hear the comms. Reckless is confident. They last pick for Baus. They say, what do you want, man? Oh, Renekton works here. No. What do you want to play? And Reckless locks him in the cane top. And then Baus proceeds to start the game 0-3. And Reckless is probably going, jeez.
He pays him back. He will pay
He's
him
got
back.
redemption.
Gets redemption in this one. Yes, the cane pick. What a story it is initially to drop down 1 and 2 in this series, to be in that hole, be in that do or die type of situation, and best of 5 for Las Ratonas. You mentioned the stress Kedro was going through. You could see that on stream, and I think is a great insight to everybody on what type of pressures and stress can be there when you're on the inside. And especially the nice thing for a lot of people to see, just that validation on just how important, how much they care, how much they are invested in this type of program. You saw that come through. You see that in the emotions of these players, and especially then the experience coming through from a guy like Reckless in this type of scenario to realize, you know what? This is one of those ones where it's not about what do you want to play. It's what do you really want to play deep down inside, and try to get that type of performance. Didn't necessarily early show it with Baus on the cane, but you did get redemption, and the rest of the crew pops off, pushes us further in the series.
And again, it's Reckless saying, screw the comp. It doesn't matter what the comp is. What champion do you want in this matchup, in this scenario? Which, you know, a great teammate to have, that he has that confidence in them. And then, yeah, we really cook up this Game 5 draft. Somehow, the strategy of the triple ban, Gragas, Cho'Gath, Sion, they do it against Baus all series, but they let the Cho'Gath through, and you hear the relief in him that he has a champion he's comfortable on, that he can play. He looks great on the Cho, but obviously the Kindred Zillion last 2 picks are the real spice in this comp.
Oh, yes, and you love to see that for this Las Ratonas team. I think adding an iconic type of pairing like that is always one of the angles that I appreciate seeing in these teams, and having in your back pocket that you can go rely on, pull back out in certain type of situations. Getting it in a Game 5, and especially you laying it out. Baus not being triple banned in this important first part of the drafting stage, giving that opportunity, giving that out, giving that comfort over to Las Ratonas. Crucial, and it was absolutely executed on. Really like the composure in that 5th game from Las Ratonas, despite all the stress, all the time, all the energy that had already been spent in this series.
And it was almost poetically ended with a penta for that Kindred. Velia gets so close, but ends up just getting the quadra to close things out. But obviously, that pairing, along with the Lucian Nami, this is just, again, peak reason to be able to listen to comms for a Game 5 draft in Fearless, and the most convincing or in control win probably that Las Ratonas had, especially compared to Game 4. But they do survive to advance to those semifinals, where they'll play Team Phantasma, who's been upsetting people throughout this entire event. Team Heretics were their latest victims.
So it's going to have to be one of these ones where, again, Los Ratones locks it in, gets that focus, gets the preparation and knowledge ahead of it. No, expectation that that's not going to be the case with how things have been going for the team so far. But again, this is uncharted territory, uncharted waters for a squad like a Los Ratones, and where they're trying to put themselves and see themselves another strong test ahead of them. Very much going to be another one where we're watching those viewership numbers, because I tell you what, 200K plus on a Thursday. I almost said 20K, because that still is pretty crazy to think about one of these ones. But 200,000 plus on a Thursday for tier 2 action. Yeah, I think people like Los Ratones.
Again, guys, these numbers are bigger than the LTA, or at the very least comparable to the peak of the LTA in its first split. Think of the resources, even with massive budget cuts, that are poured into the LTA, whereas here you have Cadril going from drafting for his team, helping draft, to commentating, to being the lead streamer. Like, it's a one-man show.
It's a one-man show straight up on a Discord call type of situation. So yeah, absolutely very different levels of it. And again, it might seem like a broken record type of thing, but there's a reason why everybody is talking about something like Los Ratones, the excitement, the viewership numbers that it generates, all for real, and all very much things that you better believe these upper regions will be paying attention and want their little slice of.
And obviously, we're already seeing that slice try to be taken in the NACL for the boys from Near Airport. I remember they were trying to come up with a name, and Near Airport is a goated name for the boys. But they had their big teaser video with their hilarious oversized suits with the boys, 4 out of 5 of them, and doing big interviews. Obviously, the vibes looking immaculate, the synergy on the Rift. They went through the qualifiers 9-0, but remember, some of these were against legit silver players. But they are in the NACL, going to be making their debut March 26th. They kick off against Luminosity Gaming, which is a full roster of LCS squads, mostly formerly Shopify Rebellion. So sounds like, we were worried Biofrost is going to be going to school, so they're not going to be able to fully commit like full-time typical professional player hours, but 2 scrims a week, all going to be streamed, and then that on top of solo queue. I'm excited for this project.
Oh man, Near Airport coming on through. And yes, what a fantastic name for any organization within North America, but especially with the flair of adding in guys like Doublelift and Spiga, guys maybe a little bit responsible for that Near Airport label being put on through. But very excited about this one. Yes, the promotional video comes through, generates some excitement, has some laughs in it. I think what the heck was going on with Doublelift's collar within that video.
He hasn't worn a suit in a while, I imagine.
Oh, I don't think he's the only one within the eSports ecosystem that would be in that type of category. Very happy to see this announcement come through. Talked about it when they announced that they were going to be putting together this type of squad and seeing what they could do, following them through the tournament and seeing that result, being happy and excited about it. And then a little bit of downpour, a little bit of disappointment when it was talked about that maybe the guys didn't want to do it, feeling like it would be too much more of a step up in commitment to keep this thing running and trying it at further levels up the tiers. Happy to see that everything has been worked out. Guys are finding the time, finding the drive and commitment to do this for the NA scene, because again, you see it with Los Ratones. This is a for real thing. Maybe it's not to the same levels of heights of extremes type of things, but if you can get anywhere close to that, any type of that thing like that, and generate that momentum, generate that type of noise and interest within the community, it's worth doing for sure. And for a squad like Near Airport, guys like Doublelift, TF Blade coming on in, this is going to be a good thing for the League of Legends scene.
And again, much like Los Ratones, and they're not shying away that they're heavily inspired by what Cadril and the boys were doing, but the first and foremost goal was, content to build brand awareness, big check there, but they also wanted to legitimately compete, win their league, and, EU Masters is the big end result for ERLs in Europe. And the boys at Near Airport talking about, okay, we're in the NACL, and now with this new format, there is a legitimate path through the NACL to qualify for that guest spot in the LTA. And Doublelift talked about it. That is their goal, and it's not out of reach if all these guys aren't completely washed.
And I think one of the things that hasn't necessarily been talked about with an experiment, with the change of organizations to be something like a Las Ratonas, to be like a Near Airport type of experience, is taking the angle of fearless draft and the breath of air that it is breathing into the scene. Think about all these professional players. Not only, can you dangle a carrot of, okay, you can come back, you can try these type of things, you can grow your brand, in an environment that's not necessarily you're strictly just as professional player. It's going to be about content and everything else on the side. You can still build these things which are valuable, but it's also that angle of, hey, you had your competitive time and you had to deal with everything that was the game at that time. How about maybe stepping into the driver's seat when you do have the freedom, you do have the chaos, the unpredictability and possibilities that are there within Fearless Draft? I think that is something that you're going to find a lot of these guys, regardless of position, ADC, mid lane, top lane, jungle, that can be brought back into the game, brought back in to maybe put some more effort and time in, knowing that Fearless is what they got in store.
And how about, I think the other angle people aren't talking about as much with all these scrims being broadcast and streamed. We know that these guys are going to do it, but isn't there an angle where you feel like guys would actually try harder in scrims knowing that they're going to be broadcast? We heard all these stories about JoJo and Cloud9 going like 5-15, kind of just running it down, trolling scrims. At least me, I'd be more inclined to be even more locked in knowing thousands of people are going to be watching these.
You see it in traditional sports. Anytime they hold open practices, anytime it's the first, they're coming back in the season and here it is, open up the practice to the public. They get to see, there always is that extra amount of attention to detail, a little bit of pressure, performance, whatever it is, factoring in consciously, subconsciously, when you have that type of attention, those extra eyeballs, and you care about it, you're driven in this type of way. Yes, I think that is one of those things that does get looked at, and especially for a region like North America, who maybe has had some of these conversations about how serious the practice is going to be, can be a benefit having the extra attention that comes through in these public practices.
And again, much like how the NLC, the viewership was basically non-existent pre-Las Ratonas, this Near Airport gang, maybe not to the same degree of growth, but the NACL viewership for their matches versus what you were getting last year is going to be, I'll tentatively say 1,000 times higher.
Well, I mean, I just view it like I'm someone that has a reason, more or less, to tune in to the NACL and check in, keep up with all these type of things within the region. And even I'm extra excited on top of this one, knowing that Near Airport is going to be there and how, however it works out, getting to see guys like Doublelift back on stage, getting to know that it's not just going to be them back on stage. I'm going to get to see all the wacky drama and silliness that's happening behind the scenes and how things are going and everything else, more than I ever had when these guys were in the LCS type of thing. This has to be a good thing for the North American scene. And I think I'm not going to be the only one that has that extra incentive to tune in now.
So again, Wednesday the 26th, they're kicking off this EU Masters tournament, perfectly timed in between first stand and the next split as we get the finals on the weekend. And of course, LPL also debuting some split 2 placement action over the weekend. And we'll be back afterwards to break all that action down. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute gorgeous folks. Thanks for hanging out as always, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.